Redwoods by Jason Chin.
It's story time with Mr. Burnett. Story time with Mr. Burnett. It's bound to be something that you won't forget too soon.
So we've got a tree here. It's like a tree squirrel. This kid's sitting in what looks like a subway station. And he's looking down on the bench next to him. And there's this book. Crazy. Like, that's the book you're in, kid. And you're outside the book, looking at the book. And you're inside the book. Redwoods by Jason Chin. The coast redwoods are among the oldest trees in the world. Their ancestors lived about 165 million years ago during the Jurassic period. One tree can live for more than 2,000 years, which means that there are trees alive today that first sprouted during the Roman Empire. Redwoods have shallow root systems that travel more than 100 feet from the tree. They help the tree stand, and they need all the help they can get because they are the tallest living things on the planet. Redwoods regularly grow to be more than 200 feet tall. A redwood trunk can be 29 feet in diameter at its base. That's so wide that a tunnel can be cut in it big enough for a car to drive through. Amazingly, such tall trees start from a seed that is about the size of a tomato seed. A 1-inch long cone that houses the seed falls to the ground, and if the conditions are right, the tree will sprout. With enough light and water, a redwood sapling can grow fast, up to 2 feet per year. Redwoods also grow from other redwoods. When a tree falls or is cut down, new trees can sprout from big round masses along its trunk called burls. Often, several trees will grow from the burls on one stump. If you see a ring of redwoods in the forest, they probably all sprouted from the same stump. One reason that redwoods are able to live for so long and grow to be so tall is that they are very good at defending themselves. Their wood contains a lot of tannin, a chemical that protects them from fungal infections and insect infestations. Redwoods are also well suited to live through fire. If there is a fire, their extremely thick bark shields them from the heat, just like the heat-resistant tiles on a space shuttle. Their branches don't start until very high up, 200 feet in some cases, which also helps protect them from the fire, since most forest fires can't reach their needles. Even if a fire penetrates a redwood's bark, the tree can still live. In some cases, a huge portion of the center of the trunk has been burned out, but the tree keeps on growing. In many ways, fires actually help redwoods by clearing out other plants that would otherwise compete for resources like water and soil. Coast redwoods need a lot of water to grow as tall as they do, and in the area in Northern California where they live is perfect. It's a rainforest. The air is cool and damp, and the land is often covered in thick fog. It takes a long time for water to travel all the way from the roots to the top of a redwood, and the fog helps the trees by preventing them from losing moisture to evaporation. In addition, the needles of a redwood can absorb moisture straight from the air. In the summer, when there is much less rainfall, redwoods have an ingenious way of collecting water. They make their own rain. When the fog rolls in, it condenses on the redwood's needles, and whatever moisture isn't absorbed then falls to the ground to be soaked up by the tree's roots. Other plants that live at the base of a redwood tree use this artificial rain as well. So not only do the redwoods water themselves, they water all the plants around them. The branches of a redwood are called the crown, or canopy, and start very high up in the trunk. To study redwood crowns, scientists have to climb into them, and this is not easy. Because the trees are so tall, researchers use a bow and arrow to launch a rope over the branches. When the rope is secure, they can pull themselves up. It is very dangerous work. When the needles fall off of a redwood, they decay and turn to soil, and redwoods are so big that this soil often collects in the trees themselves. Soil that collects in the branches of a tree or in crevices in its trunk provide a home for other plants. Plants that grow on redwoods are called epiphytes. The most common epiphyte found in redwoods are ferns. In one tree, researchers found a mass of ferns weighing more than 1,600 pounds. That's heavier than a full-grown polar bear. Ferns are not the only plants that make their homes in redwoods. Mosses, fungi, bushes, and even trees grow in the redwood canopy. Researchers have found a wide variety of trees high above the ground, including hemlocks, spruces, firs, oaks, and California bays. In one redwood, researchers found a California bay tree growing out of a knothole over 300 feet from the ground. In addition to plant life, scientists have found many animals living in the redwood canopy, including flying squirrels, beetles, earthworms, centipedes, spiders, salamanders, and yellow banana slugs. Some animals, like red tree voles, live their whole lives in the treetops and never see the ground. Many birds live in the tops of redwoods, including bald eagles, ospreys, and woodpeckers. The marbled murrelet and the northern spotted owl live almost exclusively in the oldest redwood trees and are both endangered species. When a redwood is injured, the tree will often sprout new trunks that look like miniature versions of the tree itself. If a branch is damaged, a new trunk will grow straight up from the top of the damaged branch. Sometimes, more than one new trunk will sprout. Researchers found one tree with more than 200 reiterated trunks in it. There was a forest of redwoods growing atop a single tree. The crown of a redwood can be very complex. As the tree grows, its main branches and the branches of its new trunks crisscross and run into each other, forming a maze of growth. The crown can become so dense that from its interior you can't see the ground or the sky. Researchers have even gotten lost while exploring the crown. The largest of all redwoods are in a class of their own called titans. For a long time, the record holder for the tallest tree in the world was Stratosphere Giant, measuring a whopping 370 feet. But that record was broken in the summer of 2006 when researchers discovered Hyperion, a giant coast redwood rising 379.1 feet from the ground, and it's still growing. That's 6 stories taller than the Statue of Liberty. It's taller than a 30-story skyscraper. It's so tall that if it were introduced to a city skyline, it would fit right in. So he got in a hurry and ran off and left the book on the bench. There's a new girl starting the journey to explore these wonderful redwood trees. Redwoods in danger. The coast redwood, Sequoia sempervirens, used to be found all over North America. After the last ice age, the climate of North America changed, and the habitat conducive to redwood forests shrank. Now, they are found only in a small strip of coastland stretching from central California to southern Oregon. In the last 200 years, this forest has shrunk even more because of human activity. Redwood lumber is very valuable because of its height, tannin content, and resistance to harmful bugs such as termites. Since large-scale logging began around 1850, more than 95% of the original redwood forests have been destroyed. Only 18% of the remaining forests are protected. When the redwoods go, much of their environment goes too. Many plants depend on them for water in the summer, and many animals live nowhere else but in their canopies. Old-growth forests, those forests that have been around for thousands of years, are home to the tallest trees in the world, have ecosystems that are especially fragile. Animals such as the red tree vole, spotted owl, and marble murrelet only live in old-growth forests. When a forest of this age disappears, it could be another 1,000 years before it comes back. So this is the actual size of a redwood cone. Much, much smaller than our white pine cones that we're used to seeing. There's a human adult beside a tree, just to give you an idea of scale. And these are redwood needles actual size, which, I mean, they're not next to the tree, but, it's about the size of my thumb. And that is the Sequoia sempervirens, the coast redwood. Author's note: I was inspired to create redwoods by the writing of Richard Preston. I first read his description of climbing in the redwoods canopy in a magazine article, and then later in his wonderful book, The Wild Trees. After several months of work on this book, I was fortunate to be able to visit the redwood forest myself. What I found far exceeded my expectations, and I left with an affinity for redwoods that I hadn't thought possible to have for a tree. Just as Mr. Preston's writing sparked my curiosity and awe of these trees, I hope that this book inspires you. If it does, I hope that you too can visit California and experience the wonder and majesty of the redwood forest. And that was Redwoods by Jason Chen, who is a young author and artist living in Brooklyn. So he had to go all the way across the country. I thought that was interesting because in the beginning, that F train and that 14th Street station, those are in New York City. So I thought it was interesting that the kid got into this journey from looking at that book. I guess that's what Jason hopes we do. I enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me. Have a nice day.